Hey, everybody. Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast. And as always, we'll be getting to the chit-chat with Randall, John, and I in just a little bit. We've actually got a pretty heavily video game-focused chit-chat going this week. I think John, I know John even came to the podcast saying, I got some thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I don't know that I want to give it a full segment on the podcast, so he's got some thoughts on that. We dig into some Square Enix or Enix chit-chat here and there, and I dig into a couple games that I've been playing. And we even discuss if Kevin Cole is perhaps John's vocal doppelganger. We'll get into some fun chit-chat, really fun chit-chat in just a little bit. But as always, I'm going to get into a few games that I've been playing, although I haven't been doing a ton of gaming. I've actually been took a trip back home to Michigan recently to visit my family for my brother's baby shower. My little brother, the first baby in the family on the way in a couple months. So it was nice to go back and see family. And in the meantime, I've just been kind of chipping away at Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. But I'm going to save my thoughts on that because I want to dig into that. I know John and Randall have also been playing. So we'll dig into that. And I'm sure we'll have some thoughts on Elden Ring in the coming weeks. Randall's been playing, and I know John just picked it up. So, I know Randall will have some thoughts on that next week, and then we'll hear more from John in the future on that. But yeah, digging into some of the other stuff that I have been playing that I've had a little bit of time to dig into. As always, I got to check out the latest PUNKCAKE release, and they've actually had two games come out recently. One of them, and I guess kind of to throw it back, we haven't talked about any Game Jam stuff in quite a while, and the Ludum Dare number 50, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I've just kind of committed to Ludum Dare, at least in my mind. But it's their 50th version of the Game Jam, and it's one of the bigger ones. Like that one and Game Maker's Toolkit seem to be the two biggest, and PUNKCAKE's game that just came out before this Game Jam is called Rush for Ages, and it's kind of like a card-based board. It's more like a board game. It's based on Civilization. They just recently stopped, I think I mentioned on the podcast, doing the polls for the Patreon subscribers for people who can vote on what game is coming next, because they're just it's just getting a little too overwhelming. We got to just go with, whatever the juices are flowing at the moment. So they're actually playing a little bit of catch up, and usually they trade back and forth. We had Remy on the podcast number of months ago, probably almost a year ago at this point. But when PUNKCAKE was kind of first getting started, and Remy and the other main developer, Benjamin, kind of trade off who makes each game, and they just kind of go back and forth, and they've been putting out a game each month. And they basically have a month to catch up on, because one of their games, Shroomkatek, that I talked about on the podcast, took a little more time in the oven. So they're playing a little catch up. So they're each making a game this month. And one of those games is Shotgun King. And they kind of all worked on this one together in some degree for the Ludum Dare Game Jam that I mentioned off the top and got sidetracked per usual. But the game that they put out for that, and I know I just kind of glazed over Rush for Ages, but the game that they're going to be working on further, they put it out for the Ludum Dare 50 Game Jam that was done in 72 hours, and it's called Shotgun King. And it's basically you're playing like a roguelike chess that you're just trying to clear all the pieces and then move deeper and deeper down into the floors. And it's kind of reminiscent of even Damocles' Gaze, where you're picking every upgrade or buff that you pick as you clear each floor. It also has kind of a downgrade or an upgrade for the opponent. So yeah, either a downgrade for your squad or an upgrade for the opponent. But the polish on this game, that it was done in 72 hours. I know every time I talk about Game Jam games, I'm just oh my God, I can't believe how much they got done on this game in such a short amount of time. And again, I don't know if I fully got this out. Again, I keep getting sidetracked, but they plan on working and fleshing this game out. Benjamin does for the rest of this month. Well, Remy, I believe, is also working on another game on the side. So I'm just really pumped. And that's just to play catch up to get back to their monthly schedule for the Patreon subscriptions and whatnot. But in the meantime, every game they've put out has just been so awesome. Rush for Ages is really complex. So I'm okay, I gotta dig into this one a little deeper. It's definitely one that just like Scavenger of Duna Mini, which I kind of bounced off at first, and then it quickly became maybe my favorite PUNKCAKE game up to this moment. But I do think this Shotgun King has a chance to be a contender as well, especially depending on what they do with the rest of the game, because basically it's another one of those games kind of like Undergrave that I talked about on recent Save It for the Cast or Ever Tried. You're kind of moving one tile or moving your king character, which is the only character you have on your team, and then you have your shotgun that you get a bunch of different buffs and upgrades for. But movement is what reloads the shotgun. So you're kind of in I don't know, you're in like a bunch of situations where, again, you only can move like a king can move unless you kill like a knight and then you have like their soul and you get upgrades that you can carry more than one soul at a time and whatnot. So yeah, you can like spend those souls to then move like a knight or move like the queen or move like the rook or whatever. And it's just so cool. It's really, really hard. Like I've only made it to floor 7, I think, and I haven't put a ton of time into this. Like I said, I haven't had a ton of time for gaming, but this one just like, it's like, oh, Ludum Dare 50 is going on. I got to check out. And then, oh, PUNKCAKE has a new game out and it's one that they're developing further. So if they just released it like this as is, it totally could already be a PUNKCAKE game. Like it feels like that level of polish. I'm sure there's like some balance issues if it, when you start getting a little deeper, but yeah, people in the Discord were like all the way to floor 20, 24, I think was the furthest I've seen just this morning actually. But yeah, it's just crazy. Really awesome game. Really awesome, like simple. It feels like an old school computer game. It's just, but like at the same time, it's just so clean and I don't know, the little like art for the cards for like the buff upgrades and stuff is just so nicely done. It's mind blowing that this was done in such a short period of time. And then I guess just for a brief shout out to our pal Jesse, aka Cardboard Moon, he just cranked out a whole bunch. Since we're talking about Discord for a second, the PUNKCAKE Discord, which you should also join, but you should definitely join our Discord as well because we got a bunch of new awesome, like super cute frog emojis that kind of inspired by like our pelican and frog artwork that his HIS did for us a while back. And kind of sort of gearing up for our 3-year anniversary. We had Jesse actually kind of just took the initiative, or Cardboard Moon took the initiative on his own to make these, and they're just so awesome. We've been having a blast using them in the Discord. Basically, I just wanted to give the Discord a shout out and Cardboard Moon because he cranks out like awesome music, awesome pixel art, awesome game stuff, like getting into game development. I think he's been doing it for a while, but like I know I've talked about Soulchild on the podcast, and I know he's joined that team to continue working on that game. It's an upcoming Metroidvania that I'm not the biggest fan of Metroidvania games, but this one's kind of a precision platformer focused adventure, and I'm all about that, especially when you are throwing new power-ups into the mix. But yeah, it already had a great aesthetic and everything, and I think Cardboard Moon's joining the squad on the like sound design aspect of the game and whatnot. So I'm really excited to see what that game ends up shaping up to be, because it was already a fantastic and like an early demo build, and I know they've been working on that game really, really hard. So really excited to keep my eyes peeled on that one. I know you can already check out. I don't think there's a demo up anymore. I think they replaced that, but yeah, I definitely recommend keeping your eyes peeled on Soulchild. And yeah, I had some other stuff that I was maybe going to talk about. We had a good multiplayer session. I had John and DJ and our buddy Mikey over for a little multiplayer session. But we've talked about Flat Heroes on the podcast before. We basically were just playing that in a bunch of different. There's a competitive mode, a cooperative mode, chasing the leaderboards. It's like an arcade platformer, almost like a bullet hell, where you're just trying to like dodge and avoid stuff. The bullets and projectiles and stuff, but it's a blast. It's a game on Switch that's only like $10 full price, and I've got some serious mileage out of that game in a number of couch co-op local gaming sessions. Just a really fantastic game, really simple, clean aesthetic. Yeah, just a great game. I was going to dig into that. Was kind of like the main game I was planning on talking about, but I think I can pretty much wrap it up there, because again, I want to leave the Kirby chat for when Randall and John and I can get together and dig into that one, although I'm getting pretty deep into the game, so I'm excited to dig into that one in a couple of weeks, or whenever we get to that. Like I said, we got the 3-year anniversary coming up soon, and I'm hoping that we can host a game jam. I'm planning it might be a little bit after the anniversary, depending on how things line up timing wise. But yeah, we're planning on hosting a game jam ourselves. So yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, yeah, I can wrap up all my rambling here, and we can get into the chit chat with Randall, John, and I. And until next week, we will catch you then.
I did want to do a quick little bit about Final Fantasy VII.
Oh yeah.
Just because I don't want to dedicate precious airtime to talking about a game that's just super good, and like people know, like it's not big news that Final Fantasy VII Remake was a really good game.
And I mean, like Final Fantasy 14 is like a really good game too. They've been like crushing it lately with these releases. So yeah.
Is it the full game though? Because I thought I remember it was like when they released it was like one episode or something.
It is. I have spent probably about 40 hours playing it, and nice. I mean, the whole spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also like
it is a little different.
Legit spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's different. Like they are redoing the story. Like there are new things. Like it's hitting a lot of the same beats, but it's expanding a lot on it and like doing a lot more. But like I've put like 40 hours into it, and I'm pretty sure from what I remember that all of this episode 1 or however, I don't even know how they're releasing it, if they're releasing, because I know they did Yuffie DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but like I'm not sure if they're like it's going to be like Hitman 3 where it's like seasonal and they're just like continuously adding on to the game, or if they're going to actually make them like this is Final Fantasy VII Remake 2.
Yeah.
A separate title.
Right.
But it all takes place in Midgar. Like it never
And how
leaves.
familiar, like you've played the original Final Fantasy VII, so you do have that frame of reference? Or
Yes, I've played it.
Okay.
I've gotten, I haven't beaten Final Fantasy VII, but like I've also played Final Fantasy VII recent enough that like when stuff that was happening that was very different from the original story, I was like, oh, that's, that wasn't in it. That wasn't
because you bought the Switch version, right, John?
I was
where
going to
they
say,
let you fast forward and stuff.
Yeah, and that ruled. But like also, man, 7 was such a weird experience because like kind of in the same way that like Ocarina of Time, it's like that first like 3D, like really like trying to be 3D and like emphasize it, and it's 7 in particular is like so mini game full. Like it is, there's so many weird things in 7.
I kind of love that though.
It's great. But like also in 7 Remake, when there is just like this motorcycle combat section, I'm like, this rules. Actually, I'm
like
really.
Are you talking like Road Rash
like
type combat?
Rule.
I mean, you have your man. So 7 Remake. 7 Remake in itself is like super fucking fun. Like it is active combat with a timed element, but it's not like. So like in the same way that like the ATS system or whatever what is it, ATB system?
You're going over my head, but is it like just like cooldown meters essentially that you're like waiting to be able to do attacks, or
like your speed would build up and like what your speed was how fast your meter, which would let you choose an attack. And you could,
based on how full the meter is, kind of.
Once the meter is full, you could select an attack, and you could set it so that there were 2 different modes. One where like if you're in the menu when your meter is full, then like it freezes time for everyone, or it's constantly going, and like that would be like if you were still in the menu and like the boss's meter was filling up, they could still attack you while you're selecting your attacks. And that's how like the original one worked. But for this, once your meters are full, then you can start doing stronger attacks more than your just basic like combat attacks. And when you are in that menu, it isn't paused, but it is extremely slow motion. So like particle effects are like sparks are going like super slow motion, and it looks and feels sick as hell. Like
I like that gameplay approach that it seems like more games have been picking up on for these type of RPG type of experiences. I like that combat system approach.
You mean the more active approach, or
where it's not just like a full out pause. You just feel like you're still in the action. There's some tension still there.
It keeps that sense of urgency on. Like you just feel like you have to, even if you kind of don't, it makes you feel like you have to make that decision, kind of more on the fly.
But it's great. Like the materia leveling system, I like a lot better than the original game. Like The original game, it was basically like Cloud was so much stronger than everyone else, and like you could just put the highest level skills on him and he would just be massively powerful. Like it's like, the equipment is so much more interesting. Like you don't technically need to buy a second weapon ever. Like the base sword or base like gun that you have at the beginning, like you can level that up and it will be a completely viable weapon for the entire game. And like that, like it kind of has skill trees for that. And
I was wondering, can you customize?
Yeah. And so like that's why you would choose different weapons, because they like, can do different specialties, but like the original weapon that each character comes with is perfectly usable for like end game stuff.
That's cool.
It's really cool. Like it's just an incredibly well made game, and I like building off of something that people have nostalgia for and care a lot about already.
Right.
And like it's like, man, every character rules except Cloud. Like Cloud sucks so much. This is Lauren's like first, because it's voice acted too.
Sure.
So like Lauren's like actually watching it, as opposed to like when I was playing the original, like she wasn't reading the screen, but like like every
and it's a good looking game
with, like,
too.
Every character rules, and then like Cloud is a pissy little like
he's a
angst
sulky boy.
And Lauren's like, he sucks so much.
Yes.
So it's great. I'm enjoying it. I love it. There's so much to do. Like it is very linear in terms of like, oh, here's like a free time, do all the side quests, or like just advance the story. So like that's a little.
I
bit
like
of a,
that though.
Yeah, that's refreshing
For
that's
me,
not
at
so
least.
bad.
Yeah.
Like, let me plow along. Let me know when I can have some freedom. Let me know when I'm just on the mission. Like, oh man.
But it's a great game. I'm gonna be playing it for a long time. Like
It's
so
kind
fun.
of surprising that it got made, to be honest. Like,
Yes.
I have to say that I'm shocked. It's kind of a bold move for Square to just be like, because up until now, I know they've done a lot of like, they did those like DS remakes of like the Super Nintendo games where they definitely changed the art style, but it was otherwise, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not like the most diehard Final Fantasy person, but they were pretty much like the same exact game.
Yeah.
Maybe some stuff added, but like the story was the same. The combat was pretty much the same, quality of life stuff, but it wasn't just like, hey, we're gonna like totally change the presentation. Even like almost like the tone of the game looks, at least like look wise, like it looks so much more like, and maybe it's just because like the way the limitations of the PS1, like they just like when you saw like the like models walking around on the world map or whatever, they really do look kind of like cartoony and like almost like childish, where like you see it now and it's like, it looks more like what like the bouncer looked like on PS2 or whatever, but with like souped up graphics. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of just shocked that it got made and that it's like getting a bigger, like I almost could see them even like being like, okay, we finished the story. We might even like extend it beyond.
Oh yeah.
Like if they're really changing it that much.
I feel like they're going to divert like major from the original storyline, which I think is honestly kind of cool. Also, like I was like super surprised when I first played 7, like the original. I was like, oh, this is way like more pertinent to like, because like it opens with you being an eco-terrorist and blowing up a reactor that is killing the planet. And I was like, oh, I relate a little bit too much to this.
Yeah.
And then like the same thing happens in like 7 Remake, like pretty much the same way, like a little bit of tweaks, but I'm like, hey, this is an ever relevant storyline.
Yeah.
Of greedy corporations that run the world, that are destroying the planet, and sometimes you just gotta commit a little terrorism.
Options are limited otherwise.
It's in a totally different vein, but is that Live Alive game, is that also from Square?
Yes, it is.
Is that
it's like
Enix
an old like
release?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like an older
Square
like before
Enix.
they merged or something.
Yeah,
but still,
yeah.
like to see the treatment that like that game's getting.
That game
almost
looks
like they were,
so sick.
It looks
It
amazing,
does.
and it basically just looks like they were like, hey, what if we just like slapped like the Octopath Traveler?
Yep.
What if we gave it that treatment to the game? But it's still, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what Square's up to these days. Not that I'm like the biggest RPG player, but
so yeah, the original one was
it.
94, published by Square for the Super Famicom.
Okay,
and it was not. I don't think it was ever ported to.
Yeah, I think that was like the reason it was kind of a big deal. Was like I wasn't familiar with the game, but they definitely were
also
like, first time to North America.
Yeah. Each storyline in Japan was like the art direction was done by a different artist.
Oh my god!
So
that's
like
cool.
Each one was completely like there was always like manga authors like who came in and would do it. It was
that's really cool.
It's so cool. Such a cool thing.
I'm assuming we did want to put Dicey at the end. Does that make the most sense, or
sure?
Yeah,
or does it not? I'm cool with whatever.
What else we got?
We got Dicey Dungeons. We got Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles of Mystara, and then we've got Dodgeball Academia, and then I was maybe just going to do a quick shout out to Ali World to start it off. Like I'm actually going to keep it very minimal because I feel like I can very concisely just sell that game. I just want it to be on the table so when we have our end of the year podcast episode, it's ripe for the picking for potentially to be a goatee pick.
Nice,
because this game is too fucking good. So I could like even just open up with that and just be like, oh, I've been playing the shit out of this nonstop.
Yeah.
In fear of showing way too much of my hand, I already have a preliminary goatee list going right now.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you're saving Elden.
I'm saving lots of different things.
I was shocked because you were like, oh, I played that Kirby demo, and then it seemed like John was like, oh, I'm gonna wait, and I was like, I kind of wanted to wait too, so I was like, okay, it didn't seem like Randall wasn't like pushing to talk about it, so I was like, I think we could probably wait on the curbs. I did
I'm not gonna talk. No, I'm not spoiling that shit. I want y'all to play that when
Game of the Year
comes,
list.
and then we're gonna talk
Horizon Forbidden West.
Kirby Forgotten Worlds demo. Man, that's crazy. So okay, I could open up with Ali World if you guys are cool with that.
There's a D at the end of that one, so I guess that counts.
Yeah, and then because I was leaning between that or like I'll probably just bring it up too in the sense of like because I did like technically beat the game, so I'll probably just bring it up in the sense of like, oh, I'm keeping my streak or whatever going of actually finishing games.
Hell yeah.
Because I have so many games I could talk. I have Unpacking, which I've been playing a ton of, but I kind of want to finish that game before I talk about it. And I also think both you guys would probably really like that game, but in particular, I think John would maybe really enjoy that game. Are you guys familiar with that one?
That was, it's just you're unpacking like after moving, right? And you're just finding a place for it. The sound design of that game looks
it's amazing.
Unbelievable. Because like putting an object
on
like on every surface is different.
And every time, I mean, I'm sure there's a limited number of them, but if you there were a couple times I literally was just picking something up and setting it down again because they do have like maybe 5 or 6 different sounds for like on that surface with that object. It's like
unbelievable.
It's fucking crazy. And then again with headphones on, like hearing every little like nuance. It's crazy, and it is more than just like unpacking your stuff. I thought you were like putting up like a shush finger.
No, I was. There's I thought of something, but if you finish your thought.
Well, it's just like you are like kind of like playing through like your life almost, like you're putting together like your scrapbook, and it's like, oh, I moved into this house, and now I'm like the second room that I guess I'm not going to talk about this one on the podcast. like you go into like when you move into like an apartment with roommates, it's like in some of the rooms you like in your bedroom you can move stuff and put it wherever you want. You do have some like rules where it's like your underwear has to be like put away in like a drawer or something, but like in the living room, like some stuff is just there that you can't move. Like it's just like you have to find room for your stuff like around everybody else's things, or now you're moving in with like a partner, and now you got to figure out like you're like, oh man, this place has like no personality anymore. It's really cool. Like I'm really enjoying it. I feel like it's maybe gonna get sad, but I'm enjoying my time so far. Like
this type of games tend to,
yeah. Like I'm at a moment where like the new place that I'm decorating, I just it's like after the place that I just lived in with my partner. So now I'm not living with my partner anymore, and I have very limited access to, like, there's like 8 rooms in the house, but I only can like decorate or like unpack in like 2 of them. Where like in some of them it's like, yeah, you can do the kitchen and the bathroom, and like you're like kind of like, oh yeah, I'm like making this place my own. It's a really cool game. It's like, and the fact that it's made by the same people that made Assault Android Cactus Plus is like, holy shit, these people have some range.
Nice.
Including the fact that like you actually like one of the first few things you unpack is like the little like cactus figurine from the game, like a little action figure. It's so cool.
That's nice. My assumption was that was just by the title, I'd never seen anything about it, but by the title, I had made the assumption that it was more like one of those like moving in frantic type of, place the shit in places as fast
Wilmot's
as you can with somebody else type of games.
Or like Overcooked kind of even.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with any more of those games. Those games stress me out.
I totally agree. And I actually played one about moving with DJ a while back called Moving Out.
Yeah,
and it's
Moving
like
Out. Yeah.
Really fucking stressful. Like you're just like, everything's like all physicsy, and we're like trying to get this couch through a door, but it's like caught on the lip of something. And you're just like, what the fuck, dude?
No, I don't need to. No.
Yeah.
Moving in general is not fun, so why would I want to do it in a video game form?
Just like Overcooked. I'm like, man, I've worked at a restaurant for fucking long enough, man. I don't need to recreate it. This is PTSD, man.
Exactly.
I do know that, like, the couple times that we play that, like, with our friends, I definitely remember that, like, Katie and I both were like, dude, this game is not fun.
No.
This is too real, man.
Yes.
Like DJ's trying to tell me what order to do. I'm like, dude, no, you have to fucking prep the lettuce and the tomatoes. Otherwise it doesn't fucking work, Oh my God. And then do the damn dishes, man.
It's basically like the yard work simulator joke from The Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly.
They put on VR headsets to do yard work, but they wouldn't do it at home.
Exactly. Too funny.
So
as long as it's a game, gamify it.
Yep.
So
what I wanted to... Real quick.
Go ahead.
I listened to the Kevin Cole episodes finally, and those were great. Like, Kevin seems like the coolest dude.
He's so fucking nice. It's like unbelievable.
But like, there was a quality to his voice that is very similar to mine. And like, in terms of like when I listen to episodes and I hear my own voice, and it doesn't sound like the voice that I hear in my head, but like when I listen to podcast episodes with us, like when the episode started, I was like, I'm not on this episode. Like, why? I didn't say those words. This isn't me. And there was a couple points where like I also like was anticipating, it was like thinking what I would say. It was like, or like just like, oh yeah, like this is what I think about that. And then Kevin would say what I was like, basically the same type of thought. I'm like, oh boy, all right, this is kind of freaking me out a little bit.
We got a little we channeled John on that episode.
and then literally when Kevin Cole brought up the MS-DOS Gorillas game, and I was like, okay, we cannot do this. I don't like this.
Dude, we gotta have him. He genuinely, because like after, I think I included it in one of like the intro or outro things, but maybe I didn't actually. But there was one of the game, like the very first game that when I had like, after I had reached out to him and we said we were gonna do it, like I was like, hey, are there any games like you've been playing that you want to talk about? And the very first game he mentioned was this game called Powder, which is this like roguelike. And I know we brought it up at some point, but we never actually ended up talking about it. Yeah. And like that was like the one game that we like actually had on the list from like the start before we even like started talking that day. And I was like, we didn't even talk about Powder. And he was like, just have me on again. Yeah. And like he said it like so like off the cuff, but nice. But I was like, he seemed very sincere about like, I'd love to come on again. It was so much fun.
It was a great episode.
Yeah, he's so cool. Yeah. They were long as hell too. Like when I sat down to edit them, I was like, fuck, these are long. But it's funny you mentioned, I don't know if I used, I tweaked it a little bit, but I think I used, it was either yours or DJ's, but I used one of your like EQs as like a bass, and I like barely had to tweak it. So it's funny, I wonder if it was yours, and he really does just sound kind of, he's got that Heinz energy. Yes, sir.
That's great.
Oh, too funny. But what do you guys think for the order? Ollie World, and then I don't want to double whammy it, so who wants to go?
Why not just double whammy it?
But man, did you guys pick up that bundle for Ukraine?
Of course.
By chance?
I did not, and I realized I've been running clicker heroes this entire time.
Ah, nice. Maybe
like,
that's
why
what's
is-
adjusting my audio levels.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, why is my computer why is the fan going so fast? I was like, ooh, let me close out of Steam. And
Did you say you snagged it, Randall? I know
did.
it's like not the best. You don't have the best PC setup for playing a lot of that stuff. But
No, but that's like pure accumulation mode for me. Like those
Yeah.
bundles are just no brainers to me, and especially for a good
Yeah.
cause. I'm like,
yeah.
and I just like itch.io as a platform, so it's just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
trifecta that way of like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I think supposedly, next month, because originally the guy who put together, who's actually, do you guys know the game Gun House by chance?
No.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? It's kind of like a puzzle tower defense-y hybrid game. But the guy who made that game is the guy who put the bundle together. And like originally he like made a post like, all right,
Brandon
who's gonna-"
Sheffield.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know him. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, he's sweet. That's that podcast that I recommended to you a while back. He's on that podcast.
Okay. Nice. Because I saw he was. I saw he was like from Gamma Sutra in the past.
Yeah, he's got a lot of industry experience, and he's
Yeah.
a funny guy too.
Okay. I got. What was the name of that podcast again? I know I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't have it.
Insert
handy.
credit. The Insert
Okay,
Credit
okay.
podcast.
Nice. But yeah, he was saying like, who's going to get together and, start raising money for the people in Ukraine and for the trans kids here in America. And he was going to originally do it like a one bundle. And then he was like, actually, I don't want to dilute the message. Like, let's do one bundle. But I think they're supposedly gearing up to do a bundle next month for like, trans related charities
nice.
next month. So
That's great.
just very cool. Again, that itch.io seems to be like, I think the bundle for racial justice and equality. And I think the Palestine one, I think those were like the people at itch.io put those together, but I think this was just kind of like, can we host this on your platform, and I'm sure they were like, why not?
Yeah.
Let's make this almost like our track record of, I don't know, I just think it's so cool.
They're at like 4 million.